Why are we ready for contact?
We're progressing and evolving toward the idea of opening up to a larger galactic community. Now you're going to actually see the manifestations of all of the work that's been done over the last 40 years. And it may take a year or two to start really manifesting in physical terms, but that's just the time lag that happens in physical reality. Bashar has simply said there will be some event near the end of 26, the beginning of 27, that will be a demarcation in our progression toward contact that will be somewhat obvious. Bashar himself has actually said this is what he calls the splitting prism. So we are now literally sort of fractioning and fragmenting into different realities. We're starting to really experience the beginning of that split, which is why we're experiencing.
Are you ready to shine? Shine bright. Woo-hoo! Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wondered why you came to Earth, what's going on, and whether we're going to make it through these challenge times, then do we have the Great Awakening and the Formula show for you. Today, I'll be talking with Darryl Anka, the best-selling author and channel Bashar, about his latest book, a co-creation with Mike Dooley, The Great Awakening, and another amazing new book coming out, The Formula. That's just what I want to talk with him about today, about why we're here, humanity's great awakening, parallel realities, a powerful choice we get to make, and what it means for you. So welcome to the show, Daryl. Are you ready to shine?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it so much. It goes both ways. So forgive me. I can't believe I'm going to ask this as a first question. But from what you're hearing, is humanity going to make it through these times?
Yes, although again, it's a matter of choice in terms of what vibration we choose. There are a number of different possible parallel realities that all coexist at the same time. So when you say, will humanity make it through, everyone has the opportunity to choose different things. So some may still be on a path of choosing more negative things and will ultimately experience an Earth that is reflective of that. And some will choose more positive things and shift to a version of Earth that is more reflective of that. So whatever portion of humanity decides that they want to go in a more positive direction that represents the idea of, quote unquote, making it through the challenges in a positive way, that's what they will ultimately experience. Others will experience something different based on what their belief systems are, what they choose, and whether those beliefs are oriented in a positive or negative way.
Thank you. So would you say, and we're gonna dive into your background, who is Bashar? We're gonna do that in a little bit. But before we go there, would you call this then a great schism or a splitting at this point of humanity, or maybe even a splitting of realities to two parallel realities?
Yes, and actually probably many more than two, but we'll narrow it down to that just for simplistic purposes. But yes, Bashar himself has actually said this is what he calls the splitting prism. So we are now literally sort of fractioning and fragmenting into different realities. We're starting to really experience the beginning of that split, which is why we're experiencing so much more what appears to be chaos, more about the idea of people believing completely opposing things from one another, because they're perceiving things that in their reality are real to them, even though it may not exist in the opposite reality.
Thank you. I'm going to go there early. I can't believe I'm going to do that. Hope that's all right. It's kind of a sci-fi kind of question. If we're splitting into two realities, and one reality is going to, let's say we've chosen reality A, and so reality B is going to, my guess is, start to fade away, sort of like tuning the dial until, or driving out of town and you're in the middle of El Paso or something, and the station starts to fade away. But isn't there going to be a residual or a memory or a WTF moment of what happened to those guys?
Some people may experience it that way because, again, this is why I'm saying there's maybe more than one way to experience these different parallel realities. Some things may fade. Others may seem more abrupt. This is a progression, and different people need to experience it in different ways based on their belief system and what they need to experience on their path. So some people may experience it more abruptly. Some people may experience it knowing exactly why they're not interacting with certain people anymore. And some may simply not even remember in the years to come that there were people around them that actually thought differently than they did. So it's just a matter of who experiences the transition in whatever way they need to.
Okay, so this is rare, and I discussed it with you beforehand that my baby is up, and usually she's sleeping always during interviews. But since she has come in here, the question is, we as I don't know if it's adults, like you signed a waiver that you're going to make this choice at a certain age, but how is the choice made for the new gen?
Well, we all make choices to lay out a life path before we get here. It's not just the children that are happening now. The difference in the children that are being born now and have been being born for a little while, maybe a couple of decades or more, is that they're not just a new generation, they're almost literally a new species. There's difference in their genetics, there's difference in their connection to spirit. They're going to remember more of who they are, remember more of their spirit selves, work more in concert with their souls, their higher minds. They're not going to forget as much as of who they are and help move humanity forward in that way. So yeah, they're definitely going to make a difference because they're not as disconnected or forgetful as a lot of the generations before us have been. But still, that's all part of the process we all laid out before we came here in terms of what the evolution of humanity would be like. And it not only involves the idea of humans making choices, but it involves interaction with other species as well from different civilizations, especially in the near future, because we're opening up to the idea that we're not alone in the galaxy. So ETs and other kinds of beings are also going to be part of humanity's evolution in the near future.
Thank you. And this excites me very much. Both I've had personal experiences of seeing UFOs. I've been on journeys where I've gotten to speak with beings who outside of here. I do automatic writing, so I'm in touch all the time. But you talked about, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, you talked about an event coming up in September where Bashar, we really need to get to who and what is Bashar and um, how you first heard from Bashar. Actually, let's back up a step. I want to know what you think may be coming in 26, 27, what Bashar may be saying coming up, if you know that, and why does Bashar call himself a first contact specialist?
Well, because that's what he is. He makes contact with different civilizations. He's one of the first beings from his civilization, along with others like him, that initiate contact in the form of communication in various ways with other civilizations. And so the idea is that all of this information that's been coming through him now for the last 40 of our years is all part of the buildup to getting people used to the idea of the way that they see reality, the way they think, and to see how much of that information we're going to adapt into our own understanding of the universe and make ourselves more vibrationally compatible with the idea of interacting with ETs. So this is all part of his process of being a first contact specialist and to see how ready we are if we make the choice to have contact with his species and other species as well.
Thank you. Boy, some beautiful questions here. And I really want to get to your story. We're going to get there quickly. Forgive me. I'm a kid in the candy store here today. Let's talk vibrational alignment, and let's talk attunement. Let's talk harmony. Let's talk frequency, because what you're talking about is if we choose to play that note, he's putting out a ding tuning fork. And if we choose to come into that vibrational alignment, then this reality, we'll call it a simultaneous, and we get to go there for everybody. But this simultaneous or parallel reality now opens up where contact will be made.
Yeah, it's exactly the same analogy as he often uses, that you're watching a television program. You get the program you're tuned to. You get the frequency that the channel is tuned to. There are other programs playing simultaneously all the time, but you only see the one that you're tuned to. But if you decide to change the channel, which is the same thing as changing the frequency on your dial or your remote, see how old-fashioned I am when I said dial, then you get a different program. Now, we have been expanding our consciousness, which means that we're also expanding, for lack of a better term, our bandwidth. And we can actually start getting bleed through from other realities, which people do start experiencing. So that's kind of one of the symptoms, I'll say, of the expansion of consciousness, is that you can start perceiving more than one reality simultaneously.
I thank you. I did this not running race. There was a running race here on Mont Tremblant yesterday, 2 days ago now. And I just go training running on the hill. And so they were doing this race 15 times up the mountain, the equivalent of Everest. And I had just moved here, so I didn't get signed up in time, but I'm just running up and down the hill. And I'm running up the hill, and they have a mid-level base camp, and there's music playing at it. And I said to myself, wouldn't it be interesting? Wouldn't it be weird if they were playing the same music on my little MP3 player that I'm playing right now? And they weren't. So I, run up the hill, come back down it, and there at the bottom base camp, they're playing the exact same music at just about the exact same note. It was almost in perfect harmony. And what you call a bleed through, I think, is what I just experienced, where in a sense, time got, I'm going to use a good English term, squidgy. And I started to see a reality before it took place, but it had already, in a sense, taken place. But that's this bleed through of seeing through a greater aperture.
Yeah, synchronicity is physical space-time's way of showing us that everything exists here and now, and everything is connected. So we create with our frequency our own synchronicities that act as road signs and road markers for when we're in the proper state to access more of our being, more of ourselves, and bring that through. So those experiences are good little reminders of how we're creating our reality more and more consciously every day, and that we will, through that process, experience more things as synchronicity, because everything is an orchestration. There are no accidents in that sense. So when we start aligning more with the creation of our reality that we're doing maybe on an unconscious level, it becomes more conscious, and we see more results in synchronicity of the fact that we are creating our timing, creating our reality experiences. So yeah, that's often a good sign that we're in alignment with our higher selves.
Thank you. And so I want to go to one of the greatest synchronicities you may not even consider it one. And please forgive me, at the start of the show, I wanted to say welcome back. So there's some weird synchronicity here as well. I'm like, wait, catch yourself. Going back in your story. So you channel Bashar, a first contact specialist. And you were also in the making, you worked on the making of the first Star Trek movie. And I find this coincidence surprising or interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, actually, there's even a more appropriate first job before the movie, before Star Trek, the motion picture. The first job I actually worked on in special effects in the film industry was a television series actually called Project UFO. And it was, yeah, no, it's a series most people don't know about, but it did exist. It was done by Jack Webb. It was kind of like Dragnet, but it was done with two Air Force officers going around and talking to people.
Was this also called Project Blue Book?
No, Project UFO is what it was called. Now it was based on a lot of Project Blue Book, but that's not what the title was. So at least not when it came out in public. So it may have been a working title. But anyway, it was pretty straightforward. There's going around as these Air Force officers talking to people who had made UFO reports and saying what they saw and all that. And we built the models of the UFOs that they used as the special effects to recreate what the sighting had been. So I actually got in one episode to recreate something similar to what I had already seen, because the producers were kind of running out of UFOs shapes and recording. And they said, well, do you have any ideas? I said, sure, absolutely. I've seen something, and therefore I can replicate a UFO for you that I've actually seen. So they allowed me to do that for one of the episodes, to replicate the triangle UFO that I had seen.
Very, very cool. And I think I have seen that very exact show a very long time ago. I'm a 70s kid myself. So how did you go from sightings to the movie industry to working on sci-fi to ending up at a channeling event?
Well, based on the two close broad daylight UFO sightings I had of the triangular ship, I started doing more research about what that was all about because obviously I had heard about UFOs, but when you actually physically see something at close range that's physical like that with witnesses with you, it changes everything. And so I really wanted to understand what was going on. How was this a part of our reality? And I began reading a lot of books any book I could find on the subject. And in those days, a lot of metaphysical books were sort of all on the same one bookshelf. So there just weren't many of them. So I went from UFO stuff to psychic stuff to channeling stuff. And mostly the Seth books by Jane Roberts at that time. And my investigations continued for about 10 years until someone introduced me to a channel who was conducting seminars at the time. And I went to listen and thought this information is very helpful. It's very positive, very interesting, very unique. And it was in one of those seminars that the entity coming through the channel offered to actually teach a channeling class. Now, I thought channeling was just sort of something that hit you out of the blue. I didn't think it was something that could be taught. So I was curious to continue my research to go into the class, not thinking I would be a channel. I just wanted to understand what the technique was that was teaching people to be a channel, whatever that meant for them. So about halfway through the 12-week course, when we were under a guided meditation being given by the entity coming through that channel, I received what appeared to be a telepathic connection, like somebody just sort of shoved a DVD into my brain, and all of this information was there in a split second of having made an agreement before this life to do this with Bashar, of the idea that the UFO had been shown to me on purpose to get me to do the research I needed to do, so that by the time it came time to do the channeling, I would be better prepared. And so the image of Bashar's face was there. The message was, it's time to begin if you still want to do this. Now, all of this opened in my head in a split second. I hadn't said anything. But the very second this was happening in my head, the entity coming through the channel teaching the class stopped the guided meditation and turned to me and said, there is an entity here for you right now if you're ready to begin. And I opened my eyes and I looked around and I saw that behind me, one of the other class members was actually sketching on a piece of paper the face that I saw in that, image that came into my head of Bashar. So I thought, okay, this is not just my imagination or a hallucination. Here's two outside validations that something real is happening here. So I decided, all right, let's see where this is going to go. And so I kept practicing during the class, and I made enough progress that the teacher asked if I would co-channel the next class with him, which I did to gain more practice. And during that class, a woman contacted us to ask if we could be volunteers for a college thesis she was writing on the connection between psychology and channeling. And so I became one of her subjects. I would channel in her home to her friends, and she would take her notes and write her paper. But then it was just word of mouth. It started spreading about this going on, and more friends kept showing up each week when we were doing this. And we had to start doing it more than once a week. We had to start renting auditoriums to handle the capacity. And then I started getting invited to different cities, different countries. And here I am 40 years later, still doing this.
Thank you. Did it feel, it sounds like there must have been a knowingness that, this is the tumbler, this unlocked, this safe, this is where I'm supposed to be. So I'm curious if there was a knowingness, and if, like my speaking with you, you felt like a kid in a candy store of, oh, goody, let's see where this goes.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had already developed an understanding by reading the Seth material and other books about what channeling was. So it wasn't that new to me that this could happen, but I did start developing a better understanding of how it works, how it happens, why it happens, how different people express it in different ways, different types of channeling states. And I began to realize that channeling is something everyone does. It's a natural altered state in the brain that represents when you're in the zone, when you're doing something you love to do, when you're acting on your passion, as a artist, a musician, an athlete, a teacher, whatever. When you're doing something you're so absorbed in that you don't even notice the passage of time, you're in a channeling state, which is gamma in the brain between 40 and 100 cycles per second. Now, how different people access that, whether deep meditation or some other way, is up to them and whatever works for them. But everyone does it now and then without even knowing they're going into that state. And when you're in that state, it's up to you to decide how to use it. Do you want to just use it for more creativity? Do you want to just use it to connect to your own higher self or other aspects of your consciousness? Do you want to open up to making a telepathic communication with your spirit guides, your angelic team, ETs, whatever? So it just depends on what you've decided for your life path as to what synchronicities open up for you as to how you will express that channeling. And it doesn't necessarily have to be anything, quote unquote, out of the ordinary, in the sense, like I said, an athlete that performs at the top of their game, an actor that becomes the part that they're playing. You sense when that happens, you sense when that alignment happens, when they're in the zone and they are in that channeling state, and it feels pure, it feels strong, it feels powerful. So everyone can do it in their own way. We wanted to demystify the idea that channeling is not just this big woo-woo thing. It's something we naturally do when we go into the proper altered state.
Thank you. So, did you go after this at some point? Because from what I understand, when you channel, you're not hearing or remembering what's being said. So, have you had conversations with Bashar going, what was this agreement that we made? How was this supposed to go down?
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, because of the way it unfolded, and I learned over time more and more to trust it, it's something that's unfolded in stages in my understanding that I've made this agreement and why. And again, a lot of it has to do with the timing of contact that's about to happen for our society in a more open way. It's been going on for a while, but it's going to be happening in a more open way in the next few years. So I think it's all been part and parcel of that, and I think I realized that quite some time ago. But again, the idea is everyone plays a different part, everyone plays a different role according to what they laid out for their life path. What you're doing by offering this opportunity to share this information with other people through this type of podcast is, again, one of the things that you've determined on your life path to be of assistance in the evolution of moving humanity forward. So we all have our ways of playing our part in the idea of how humanity can evolve. And it becomes more obvious every day as more and more people sort of start tuning in to the idea that things need to change and things can grow in a more positive way. And by exploring the idea of expansion of consciousness, the idea that we're not alone in the universe, all of the technologies and things that are coming up that are reflections of changes that have happened in our individual and collective consciousness are signs that we're progressing and evolving toward the idea of opening up to a larger galactic community.
Thank you. Would you mind going there? What you know so far, what you've heard, and I completely understand. And forgive me, everybody. I've got to give you as much backstory as I can. But when we look at the future is not written. So it's a preponderance of the evidence based on where we're at vibrationally now, and that's always changing. However, it sounds like 26, 27, from what you're hearing, from what other sources I've had on the show are saying, is when first contact, it's a strange term, when more public contact may take place.
May begin. Now, I don't know exactly what form that will take. Bashar has simply said there will be some event near the end of 26, the beginning of 27, that will be a demarcation in our progression toward contact that will be somewhat obvious that allows humanity to really start understanding we're not alone. and we're about to know more about our connection to this galactic community. I do not know what the event is going to look like. And I don't know that it's necessarily going to happen on one particular day or anything like that. But there's something within that window of time, within a couple of years, that will really accelerate our momentum in the direction of contact and be pretty obvious what it's leading to. Now, my recent understanding also is that that will be the beginning of an acceleration so that the introduction of different ETs and true public open contact will be occurring within the next 5 years at the outside. So it's something's going to happen that's going to accelerate us in that direction. And it could be what's happening at the end of 26 or the beginning of 27. I don't have much more information on it. They're being a little bit tight-lipped about it, but they've said that much.
Thank you. And when you say they, what does they mean?
They means that when Bashar comes through, he is connected to a much larger team of beings telepathically. It's not just him talking. My brain is translating a telepathic connection that's coming from him and many other beings. And in that conversation, when people ask a question, one being or another may be more appropriate to answer the question, but it all facilitates through the entity we know as Bashar. So a lot of times when Bashar does talk, the plural uh, word we is often used, and people have asked him about that. And he's saying, well, I'm telepathically connecting to literally dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of other beings that are all part of this conversation. But for the purpose of simplicity, you are given one identity to deal with. So you may be talking to a spirit guide, you may be talking to your higher mind, you may be talking to an ET, you may be talking to a hybrid, you may be talking to another dimensional being, you may be talking to an angelic being at any given moment in the course of this conversation. But it all falls under the banner of the word Bashar, which is not his name. It's just an Arabic word that means messenger or bringer of good news. And I didn't even know that, because when that happened in the channeling class, that his face was there, the word was there, Bashar. I thought it was his name, but he's since explained, no, we don't have names because we're telepathic. We don't need them, but we knew you needed something to refer to us by. Now, part of my ethnic background is Arabic on my father's side, but I don't speak the language. It wasn't until 2 or 3 years after I started channeling that someone came up to me and said, do you understand that Bashar is an Arabic word? I said, no, I have no idea. And he said, yeah, it means messenger or bringer of good news, and in some cases means simply human being. So I understand that it's a reference to what is happening here. They're bringing messages through for us. So Bashar is apt as a term to say, this is the messenger, and here are the messages. So that is something that has sort of revealed itself over time. Like a lot of other aspects of my channeling, there's sort of breadcrumbs that they drop for me and allow me to sort of solve other kinds of puzzles. And when you were talking about me having conversations with Bashar, yeah, I often have conversations with Bashar while he's channeling to other people. So that's another reason why I may not completely remember what the conversation with someone else is about, is because I'm having my own conversation with him, but it comes in a different form. It comes in images and feelings and tones and all sorts of symbols and things like that. So yeah, I have had dream encounters with him on about 4 or 5 occasions where I know it's different than a normal dream, because all that's happening is I'm talking to him like I'm talking to you now in the dream for the duration of the entire dream, and learning different things. And that they stand out as something other than a typical dream. So I know I've had those communications with him, but I get to learn what I need to learn in the channeling because I'm having those kinds of downloads given to me in a way I need to use them in my life, while he's conversing with other people about the way they need those concepts in their life. So yeah, it's a very multidimensional sort of experience.
Very, very cool. And it's interesting. So I have a Hebrew name, which I didn't understand what it meant until recently while doing this show after years, which is Meir. which means bringer of the light. how, did, yeah, how did that happen? So I'm very curious, twofold. So I've had a few near death experiences. I also teach automatic writing, and near death experience is to me a download, a massive download of information, and it comes in a sense without question. Automatic writing is a process where I'm talking with my guides, I'm having conversation. I'm not actually always agreeing or even agreeable.
But that's a form of channeling is automatic writing. And there is a process that the channel has to go through. So yeah, it's, what you channel out is also for you too, in terms of clearing yourself out and developing yourself and evolving yourself and getting balanced in your own, emotional and mental and physical ways. So yeah, the channeling involves a process not only for other people, but for the channel to become more and more kind of like your version of your own higher mind, to express more of your soul here in service to humanity. So yeah, absolutely. The near-death experience, things are just known, things are just there. And like you said, it's without question, because in that state, you are given a complete telepathic understanding of what's going on. And so you just know it beyond a shadow of a doubt. And when you come back to physical reality, there's a process involved, and that process involves the channel as well as the person being channeled to. Yeah.
Yeah, and but I want to go to your story, but yes, coming how do we call it? I have no other way to put it. Integration is a you come back and you look at this world, but how much have you merged with not Bashar itself, but with the teachings, with the attunement, with the frequency, and almost has that put you sometimes in a we state?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, one of the things that's coming up, I did this once already as a test a couple of years back, but we're going to, in I think 25, I'm going to start teaching a class myself on metaphysics and really break down all of the principles that Bashar has talked about. Because, in a 90-minute channeling session, people ask a lot of questions, and a lot of the answers have to be relatively short just because of the timing involved. So I want to teach a class that allows people over the course of many days to actually dig much deeper into Bashar's principles, to really give examples and take people through a deeper understanding of how to use the metaphysical concept that he talks about and show a connection. It's sort of like providing a unified theory of metaphysics that explains the connection between many different metaphysical phenomena, so that people can see the connection, they can understand it and apply it in their physical lives more concretely. So I will be starting to, in a sense, channel as more of myself by teaching the class next year, starting next year. So yeah, that'll be coming up as well.
Are there concepts, and I want to get more back into contact in the galactic family in a minute, but are there concepts that you've had a hard time with, or discussions with Bachar going, I don't get this, or um, any kind of disagreement until you got a big picture on it?
No, there's no disagreement. There may be misunderstanding or not understanding something and asking for clarification on it. I mean, one of the most memorable moments I had in doing that was simply my curiosity about the idea of how they travel from star to star so quickly. Because, our scientists saying, oh, the distances are so far, they can't possibly get here. Now, more recently, a lot of physicists are beginning to discover at least mathematics that says it is possible to get to stars much more quickly than we thought. It's not about necessarily breaking the laws of physics, but it's about understanding different physics that allow for shortcuts to happen, such as portals and wormholes and things like that. So we're getting an understanding of that. But I wanted to understand from Bashar specifically, what's the principle on which your ships work that allow you to go from one star to another almost instantaneously. Now, he downloaded the idea to me, and it happened in a split second, but it took me about 3 hours to write it all out. So, that was one of the clarifications and understandings that I was simply really curious to understand. And that's how it happens when I get those questions, is there's the same thing that happens in the channeling. There's an instant download. All the information is there, much like you experience in spirit in a near-death experience. But it takes a while to unspool and translate into our language physically for other people, or even just to write it out. So that's one of the reasons, because one of the things people have always noticed when Bashar is talking, or when he's translating his thoughts through me as a translation device, because he's not really talking at all, is that there's never an or hesitation. And that's because the entire answer is there all at once when a question is asked. And so it's just automatically unspooling, but it's not like any thinking is going on to think, oh, what am I going to say next? The entire answer is already there. So my body is just unspooling it like a translation device. And that's why there's never any hesitation. So I'm beginning to let that rub off on me, and doing these kinds of interviews has obviously been great practice for me. As you say, teaching is the best way to learn, to get back into that state on my own and be able to just dispense information without hesitation, because I understand the principles deeply enough to simply explain them straight out without having to think about what it is I'm going to say next.
Thank you. We're going to be going into a bunch of those principles in a little bit. I am very, very curious. What did he share about how he travels?
The idea, of course, of physical space-time is a projection of consciousness. It's an illusion. Distance is an illusion. In fact, he said that our quantum concept of entanglement is proof that distance is an illusion. But we can get into that later. Basically, he's saying that every object is a combination of frequencies. It's like an equation or a formula of different frequencies that make up its signature vibration, that makes it what it is. But within that recipe of vibrational frequencies that represent a particular object, one particular variable in there is the frequency that represents its location in space and time. So they've learned how to change that locational variable. So let's say that on their home solar system, a ship is floating in space and it's occupying a particular location in space and time. Well, that's representative of a specific frequency variable within its overall equation. By surrounding the ship with kind of a force field that unlocks it from any particular reality, and then imposing a new frequency variable that represents a different location many, many light years away, and imposing that new frequency on the ship and the crew and everything in it, it literally allows the ship to disappear from one spot and reappear in another spot that represents the new location, because holographically speaking, everything exists everywhere at the same time. So all they're doing is saying, we exist here at the moment and location A, but we want to actually just start existing at location B. So we change the frequency variable in our equation that is about location B, because in a sense, we already all exist everywhere. So we can pick and choose the where and the when within all of that holographic matrix as to how we manifest our presence. And that's how they do that when they're traveling from star to star. When they're traveling more slowly, they're using electromagnetic and gravitational fields and all sorts of stuff like that. But going from star to star, they have a completely different form of drive. And it is based on this idea of frequency, resonance, and shifting the locational variable that constitutes their existence in space and time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And there's a key word in there for me: manifest. This does not sound any different at all than how we can shift to a new timeline or simultaneous reality doing it ourselves.
It's all the same principle. That's what he's basically saying. We're already doing it. You do it even to, quote unquote, look like you're moving through space and time. It's just that they understand how to consciously control that. And we're just doing it automatically, unconsciously. So when we learn how to consciously control that, So we can, right now it's no big deal. We say I can move forward and back and left and right. And when we learn to move, when we learn to make up and down no different than back and forth and left and right, we levitate. So that's what levitation is. You're simply moving in a different dimension, the same way that you're already creating the illusion of movement in space and time by simply going left, right, forward, and back. It's just that now you're including the third dimension of up and down in that same process. So yeah, we're doing that already. That's just what we're designed to do. That's how we're creating our physical space-time reality, or the illusion of it, the experience of it, perhaps more appropriately. So they've just extrapolated that out to the idea of their technology as well, which we can also do in the future.
Thank you. Does that mean that, in a sense, oh, it's not a fair word to use, training wheels, but in learning how to manifest a new reality and learning how to draw to us the future that we desire, we're starting to play with these variables by linking up with the frequency of what we desire?
Yes. Yes. What our passion is, what represents our true path, our true core frequency, our vibration, our essential soul vibration is representative of our path and how it leads us to the idea of expanding our awareness, expanding our consciousness, and our abilities to do things that can seem almost magical. It was, Arthur C. Clarke that coined the term, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And so that change has to happen in our consciousness first. But as soon as that shift happens in our consciousness, we start seeing things happen in our technology, in our sociology, in our economy, in our politics. Those changes are all coming after the shift that happens in our consciousness. They're all reflections of a change that's already happened within us.
Thank you. So, why do you think Bashar showed up specifically about 39, 40 years ago? What are the shifts that he's helping bring about in humanity? And why do you personally feel this is, I can double back to this. It's all the same timeline though. Why do you feel that we maybe are now almost ready for contact? How has humanity shifted?
40 years seems to be a typical cycle in humanity for the change of an entire paradigm. So you see a lot of representations about things happening over 40-year cycles throughout our history. And it allows humanity to, over stages, over time, to process great changes and great shifts. So 40 years, the timing of this has to do with fitting in and synchronizing with the cycles of humanity, and when we're ready to leave one cycle and start entering another cycle. So his appearance is timed specifically for the 40-year cycle that has to do with open contact, with contacting other beings in the cosmos. And therefore, that's the reason for the timing in this. Because now it's been 40 years since I've been doing this, and now it's okay, within, give or take a year or two, is when he's saying, okay, you're about to start seeing the fruits of this labor. You're about to start seeing the results of this ending of the 40-year cycle that had to do with getting information that leads us toward contact. Now you're going to actually see the manifestations of all of the work that's been done over the last 40 years. And it may take a year or two to start really manifesting in physical terms, but that's just the time lag that happens in physical reality. But it's happening now, and it's been going on for quite some time.
How have the messages changed, or how has he prepared us? Or if you look at it from yourself and you've in a sense merged here, how have the concepts become anchored in enough that we may be ready?
Well, again, more and more people are actually applying things like the formula that he shares with all of us, the different principles that change our lives in positive ways. In other words, it's basically an instruction manual for how we create our physical reality experience already, but the instruction manual makes it more conscious. And the more people apply that formula that he's shared with all of us and all the other principles that he's talked about, the more often I get people coming back to me and saying, oh my God, when I really applied this, it changed everything in my life for the better. It changed it in much more positive ways. There's more synchronicity, et cetera, et cetera. So I can see the result of the information as it's applied to our physical lives. And that's why I always say, look, It's not important that you must believe that Bashar is truly an extraterrestrial or whatever. That's not the important thing. The important thing is that the information itself is proof, because the information actually does create an effect. It does work. It does change things. So it's not about whether Bashar is real or whether this is coming from another aspect of my own consciousness. I have no way at this moment of proving to anyone that Bashar is a separate being. Now, if they're going to open up to having physical contact with us, then obviously we'll have the physical proof that we need within a short order. But the idea really is we're supposed to focus on the information and decide for ourselves whether that information, when applied to our lives, is really what we prefer or not. It's like applying the information is like, and using it and getting a difference is like casting a vote for contact. So when people keep coming back to me and saying, oh yeah, this made such a big difference, there's another vote for contact. And it increases the probability that contact is going to happen. So I know the information is having an effect. And that's what we're going to see the result of in the next few years.
Thank you. Would you mind sharing that formula with people today?
Very quickly, the formula is a 5-step process that says any situation that arrives as an opportunity to act on your passion, act on it first. Whatever contains the most attractiveness, curiosity, excitement, passion, that is a reflection of your true vibration, your essential core frequency. So this is your higher mind telling you this is your next step in life. Act on this. So you act on the thing that contains more passion than anything else. And this doesn't mean that you have to be, acting on a life-spanning career or a gigantic project. Everyday things, whatever just has more attractiveness to it than anything else, more excitement to it than anything else that you're capable of acting on, act on that first. Step 2, take it as far as you can until you can take it no further, until the excitement wanes or shifts in another direction. But making sure you're not the one with a fear-based belief or a negative belief, you're not the one that's killing the excitement. You have to be honest with yourself to know that it's just naturally shifting and guiding you to act on something else that now contains more excitement. That's the way your path is winding. The third step is to act on your passion with absolutely zero insistence or assumption as to what the outcome should look like. And I know that's challenging for a lot of people, but nevertheless, we really honestly do not always know what the ideal outcome looks like, even though our ego might think it does. So by relaxing our insistence and our assumption about what that outcome should be, we actually will open up to receiving the outcome that actually needs to be there, that will carry us further on our path. Step 4 is to remain in a positive state no matter what manifests. Even if something manifests that we objectively don't prefer, that's not vibrationally compatible with what we prefer, it's still there for a reason. And if we stay in a positive state, we will get a benefit out of why that's there. If nothing else, on the simplest possible level, manifesting something that we don't prefer can be used by contrast to see what it is more clearly that we do prefer. And that's a positive way to use what we don't prefer. So now step 5 would be to always examine your belief systems, find out why you believe what you believe, and to let go of fear-based beliefs, negative beliefs that might be holding you back from being your true self. And this is where the law of attraction comes in, because it's not wrong that people have to be the frequency to attract something that is representative of that frequency. But I think there's a slight misunderstanding in how the law of attraction actually works, because the idea is that our core vibration is already giving off the appropriate frequency to attract everything in life that actually is beneficial to us that we need. It's not so much that we have to learn that vibration, it's that we have to get out of the way of that vibration attracting those things. We have to stop impeding that vibrational frequency. But by getting rid of and clearing out all the negative and fear-based beliefs and understanding why we choose to believe what we believe, letting go of those things that don't work for us. So those 5 steps, acting on your passion, taking it as far as you can, having no insistence or assumption, staying in a positive state, examining your beliefs and letting go of the negative and fear-based ones, starts the ball rolling for a lot of effects to start happening in your life, like more synchronicity, the path of least resistance, more support coming in various ways, reflections to examine yourself and find those belief systems that are out of alignment with who you are. That all starts happening automatically. It creates a momentum that allows you to move forward in a much more accelerated way. So that, in a nutshell, is the formula. And that is the new Bashar book that will be coming out at the Sedona event coming up in September that Bashar is going to be channeling at, called The Formula, A Gift from the Future. It is literally an instruction manual for how to live your best life. It's all the encapsulation of a lot of what Bashar has talked about over many, many years in one book. So we're very excited that the formula is finally coming out as a book that will be available now this month in September on the bashar.org website.
And I will have that bashar.org. If you didn't catch bashar.org, I will have that link down below for you to see that bashar.org as well. How much does energy, excitement, passion, happiness, and then permission have to do with this?
Well, you create your own permission slips in terms of what you're attracted to give yourself permission to be more of who you are. And again, it has to be something that is truly on your life path. And that's why I said your core vibration is always bringing you what you need, because it's what you need that will fulfill you. I know people sometimes use what I want interchangeably, but sometimes what you want is not necessarily what you need. What you need will always fulfill you and give you joy. And the idea of what you want can sometimes coincide with what you need, but quite often it doesn't, because we get caught up in our physical minds, in our egos, and we think, oh yeah, if I just get this, that thing I want, that object I want, that job I want, this I want, well, I'll be happy. But that's not always the case. But getting what you truly need will actually fulfill you. So if you're going to want what you need, because that will come to you and that will actually fulfill you.
How much of this is, would you guess or believe, is breadcrumbs? Meaning you feel you want, I want this, I don't know, gingerbread house. I want this gingerbread house. I need this gingerbread house. But you don't get the gingerbread house, but it took you down the road enough that you see, I don't know, the candy cane house.
The principle of not making any insistence or assumption comes into play very strongly. A lot of times, what you are excited about comes in the form it comes in for exactly just what you said. It just gets you off your butt and starts you moving, so that you need to wind up where you actually need to be, so that what really needs to happen can happen, that wouldn't have been able to happen if you didn't get excited about the way in which your excitement came to you. It's like getting a carrot and you following the carrot. So yes, sometimes the form in which your excitement comes can come to fruition, but you can't assume that the form it comes in has to come to fruition that way, because the form it comes in may be nothing more than allowing you to move forward, because you're excited to follow this, to get you where you need to be, so that what really needs to happen can happen. So never make the assumption that you know the form your excitement comes in has to come to fruition. Let it guide you. Let it show you what it is that actually does need to manifest. And many times it can be many, many times better than your physical mind was actually capable of even imagining, because the higher mind is much, much bigger than the physical mind. And what to the physical mind may seem like the ceiling, to the higher mind is just the floor, and it can go up from there. So the physical mind has to stop assuming it knows what the ideal outcome should be, because it really doesn't have a clue. The higher mind knows what the ideal outcome is that will benefit you and serve you best. And you have to let it show you, let it bring you that outcome in the steps that need to be there for you to go through a process to give you the appreciation, the knowledge, the understanding of what it is that your life is developing into, so that you can fulfill your life path and the purpose of being your unique self in service to humanity and in service to the universe. So it's about dropping those insistences. Now, you can use an ideal picture in visualization to get you excited. That's fine. But you can't insist that the picture in your mind is what absolutely has to happen, has to manifest that way, because it may just be for the purpose of a symbol. It's a symbol of the ideal outcome. So visualize all you want, create the ideal outcome in your visualization, but it's for the purpose of getting you into the proper vibrational state to allow what needs to happen to be more easily capable of arriving and manifesting. It's about the state, not about the picture in your mind. So use visualization to get you totally ramped up into the excitement, but then drop the picture and be open to receive what happens next. Even if it's something you don't prefer, it's got to be there for a reason. Stay in a positive state. That's the fourth step. Stay in a positive state, and you will get a benefit from why that happened.
Thank you. And you say, and I love this quote, you cannot experience what you're not in vibration of first. And so your higher self, your higher state is going to speak to you vibrationally about where you want to go to.
Exactly. And that's what passion is. It is the message in energy terms from your higher mind saying, this is the next step on your path. We interpret that message as the sensation we call passion, excitement, creativity, love. So that's literally a message from your higher mind. When you are willing to act on it, that's the physical response that says, I hear you and I'm willing to be guided by you. Because the language of physical reality isn't words or thoughts, it's behavior, it's action. So when you are willing to act on the excitement, now you are actually responding to the higher mind saying, I heard you. And when you respond, you're now creating that dialogue where the higher mind goes, okay, they heard me. Now I can send them more opportunities to act on their passion. But if you're not willing to act, you're not responding. And therefore, the higher mind is not going to send you more opportunities to act on your passion if you're not willing to act on what it's already sent you, because that would be pointless. And the higher mind doesn't do pointless things.
Oh, okay. A challenge here. I can sense that people would be going, oh, have I blown it then? Has my higher mind shut down because I didn't avail myself of opportunity?
Never, never, never. It never shuts down. You always have choice. You always are free to look at it from a different point of view, to understand it more deeply, and to then take the actions necessary. It's never too late. You just have to have the realizations. Now, again, when I say it's never too late, that doesn't mean you have to achieve certain things in this lifetime. Remember, you are an eternal, infinite spirit. You have endless, infinite amounts of time, if you want to put it that way. So if you don't learn a lesson in this physical life, you'll learn it somewhere else. There's always more. There's always a chance to grow. It never ends. Never, never, never. So, don't be in such a hurry. You don't have to necessarily accomplish everything in one lifetime. It's for the purpose of experience. Get that process down. The purpose is to gain knowledge, gain insight, to grow, to advance, to evolve at your own pace, whatever's comfortable for you. Now, if you want to accelerate, again, there are ways to do that. But again, it's about opening up to who you really are, opening up to your higher mind, and being in balance with the idea of letting your physical mind do the job it was designed to do, which is allow you to experience physical reality, but allow the higher mind to do the job it's designed to do, which is to lay out the knowledge of the path before you that is truly serving you and serving humanity, which is what comes in the form of, again, the messages from the soul, the messages from the higher mind that contain the most passion. That's who you are. That's your core frequency. So acting on it is being in alignment with your higher mind and allowing you to most fully fulfill the path that you laid out for yourself in this life, and will accelerate you in that way, in that direction.
Thank you. I think we're bringing it full circle. It's a little early. We've got some time here, but going with where humanity is going, and we spoke at the beginning about a schism, a split in humanity. It sounds like one of those two railroad tracks or splits, a split in the tracks, is a new version of humanity that is focused on this energy, that is focused on this path and passion, or that is seeing a light railway opening up before you and choosing it, and then choosing again and choosing again and choosing again, to where you're so far down this track you don't even see that other track anymore.
Exactly. And as Bashar says, it becomes so ingrained eventually, like it is in their civilization, that while you always know you have the choice to choose something that may be, in opposition to that may be negative or fear-based, there's so much momentum finally in choosing the positive that it would actually be more challenging to go in the other direction eventually. There would need to be so much more inertia to be overcome. It makes it more difficult to actually choose something that is an opposition to your preferred vibration. That's how they experience it now. They've been choosing positive realities for so long in their civilization, it's almost impossible for them to choose anything else because it's created a momentum. So that's what he's suggesting we can also begin to experience after this period of choosing, because this is the time of choosing. It's like, get on the train you want to be on, because those tracks will be going farther and farther and farther apart. And eventually, yeah, you may not be able to see the other track that you originally thought you might want to be on. And now it's so far away that you don't even know there's another track or another train to be on, because now you're just on this track, and that will be the track you're on till the end of your life. So get on the train you want to be on now so that you can experience what you wish to experience as you shift through different parallel reality versions of Earth, which all coexist right now.
So I'm going to go back to parallel realities in just a minute. Is Bashar saying that this is a special, we've named it a few times. We can call it the shift, we can call it the awakening, we can call it a rebirth or a regeneration. Is this truly, or is this just a man-made idea that this is a special sacred time, or is it really something unique or unique that takes place in the evolution of all species?
It is something that is built into the idea of evolution and expansion, and different species arrive at it in different ways and different times. But this is humanity's time to understand how to get on this wave that is building and building and building, because it has made choices over thousands and thousands of years that create all of these possible opportunities that allow us to start understanding the very idea that we're now talking about parallel realities is something that has come into humanity in relatively recent times. And that already reflects a shift in our consciousness to know that we have the opportunity to make our choices of which parallel reality we will experience a more conscious choice. So that's why we're having this discussion. So yes, it's something that's built into the idea of the evolutionary process, and we've arrived at the point where we can now know this and take advantage of it in whatever way, shape, or form we want to.
Thank you. What can you tell us about, let's go parallel realities 101. How's that?
Well, it goes back to the television analogy. Again, there are dozens and hundreds of programs on a TV playing all at once. So they all coexist on different frequencies, and that's how they can all exist at the same time. They are separated, or apparently separated, by the different frequencies that they each represent. So when you shift your frequency, when you change the channel, you get a different program. Now, again, as I said, we're kind of expanding our consciousness and broadening our bandwidth. So we might be able to actually get more than one channel simultaneously. And this can result in different kinds of, I'll just say, side effects, like deja vu, like what people sometimes recognize as what they call the Mandela effect, where different people really say they remember different histories, which could be the history of one parallel reality as opposed to the history of a different parallel reality. Now, yes, not everything is the result of the Mandela effect, because we can forget things. We can have, glitches in our brain that allow us to not really remember what happened in a particular reality that we might be in. But there are also those that are really representative of, no, I remember it this way. I absolutely remember it this way. And another person saying, no, it was completely different. That is a symptom of the broadening of the bandwidth to pick up on two simultaneously existing parallel realities, because it's all about the idea of which reality do we prefer. We are giving ourselves this choice. And deja vu can also be representative of several different things, but still the expansion of consciousness, because it can be representative of picking up on a parallel reality that may be a little bit ahead of us, so to speak, in the same way that, two different channels on your television set might actually be playing the same program, but one might be slightly offset from another. So let's say one of these programs started at 9 and the same program on another channel started at 9:30. So one is a half an hour ahead. So if you switch back and forth between the channels, you can see what's going to happen in the program that you also could go back to look at that started a half an hour later than the other one. And so when you expand your consciousness and get both of them going at the same time, that can be deja vu in the experience of, wait a minute, I've already seen this. It feels like this has already happened, and yet it's happening now. It's unfolding now. It can also be you tapping into your life path ahead of time, so to speak. You can be aware of the blueprint you laid out before it actually physically manifests. That can also be another reason for experiencing deja vu, is you lay all this out in non-physical reality, somehow you connect into that with your mind, and then when it manifests physically, you're going, oh, this looks so familiar. And that's because you are consciously somehow aware of the blueprint you laid out for this to manifest, but you have now only arrived at the timing of the physical manifestation, but it feels familiar because you're aware that you laid it out in non-physical reality first before you incarnated. So there's a number of different reasons, but all of them are the result of the expansion of consciousness and the broadening of our bandwidth that allows us to experience these phenomenologies in different ways.
You just tripped something in me, and I have a dear friend who's a mathematician, Mark Hewitt, who's talking about this completely different way of looking at math in the world. As you're talking about the deja vu, and you're talking about one station at 9:30, one station at 9, what I'm seeing is almost like a tetrahedral geometric shape, where the different realities are different nodes on this geometric shape. And you're now, when you're talking about time this way, you're thinking about it multidimensionally.
Exactly. And that's actually an interesting segue, because Bashar has actually said in their reality, they don't express math in the way we do with equations. They express it geometrically. And it's exactly like that, like having these geometric shapes that have different kinds of angles and nodal points and things like that, that represent different principles in physics that we represent as a mathematical equation, and they just represent as a holistic shape in geometric terms that explains everything that they need to know in that about that same physical principle. So yeah, it's similar in that sense to their civilization.
Can you, I don't even know what questions to ask, because I'm getting the visualizations as we're going along, and I'm going, oh my. Can you tell us anything more about this?
Well, one example he's given is the idea, like in physics, there's the idea that you cannot necessarily know both the position and the momentum of a single particle at the same time, because by the time you measure the position, the particle has moved on. By the time you measure the momentum, then you've lost where the particle was. So he's basically saying, look, a simple tetrahedron, an equilateral triangle, four-sided pyramid, is that principle, because you have the one triangle is in the same plane, and you can say that's the plane of the physical dimension of X, Y, Z, of length, width, and breadth. But then you have the pinnacle, which represents the concept of time, but that's not connected. So you can know, if you take a side of that pyramid, you have two components of the physical location, but not the third. And you have the third component of time, so you know the momentum, but you don't have the physical location because you don't have the third point of the base of the pyramid. But if you take all 3 points of the base of the pyramid, then you don't have the factor of time at the pinnacle. And so you may have the location, but you don't have the momentum. So he's saying that a simple tetrahedral pyramid like that is a geometric way of explaining that physics principle of not knowing the position and the momentum of a particle at the same time.
Thank you. It also seems to explain a little bit about parallel realities, because now we're going into subspace, or we're flickering in and out of this quote unquote reality. And those other nodal points are already existing in that other reality, always existing in that other reality, the greater reality.
Yeah, and you only perceive them when you change your perspective, which is like changing the channel. So you see, this nodal point from this vibration, and you get a change in your vibration, and now you see this nodal point, because you can only experience what you're the frequency of. It's simple physics. You cannot experience what you're not the frequency of first. You have to be that frequency. And even Einstein said a version of this when he said, you can't solve a problem from the same level in which the problem was created. You have to go to the level where the solution exists. and it's a different state of being. It's a different frequency. It's a different perspective. And it even goes into the idea, and this is kind of an interesting little tricky thing that Bashar has talked about, is when you experience a state of being that you really prefer, and you want to get back into that state of being, he said, don't be confused about the idea that it has to feel exactly the same. It could feel different because you're a different person now. But he said the trick is understanding that if you can remember what it was like to experience that state of being, he said you actually have to actually be in that state of being in order to even remember what that state of being felt like before. So having the ability to remember what it was like, you're already in the state of being, even if it feels different. Because if you weren't in the state of being, you couldn't even remember what it felt like.
Thank you. So when I teach about this, and when I teach about how many of us, I believe all of us in some way, have had awakening experiences. What I tell people is your awakening experience, which you may have poo-pooed, you may have, society has said you dream that, you imagine that, it didn't really take place. That is the key. And if you can get back to that experience in your mind's eye, even for a moment, you turn the key and this whole new opportunity, we can call it a parallel reality, opens up before you. All you have to do is get there, imagine that you're there, and that itself turns the key.
And then you have to act like you know you're there, because that action is what anchors it into your manifesting physical reality. You have to commit to that vibration through your actions in order to perpetuate the momentum that will then allow synchronicity to present itself along that line.
I'm glad you used that word. So the first early word was choice. Humanity has a choice to make. We each have a choice to make. But that word commit seems even more powerful than the word choice, because you can choose it, but you're still, and we'll use a good American vernacular, an armchair quarterback. You actually have to step forward into what you've chosen.
Right. That's why Bashar says it's the actions that count. The action is a commitment. You have to actually act like you know that this is true. It has to be in your bones. It has to be in your behavior. You have to be a living example of it in order for it to continue to manifest along that line. Otherwise, there's nothing really there to anchor to.
How much of Bashar's teachings changed over the last 40 years, particularly around now?
They haven't changed, but they've deepened. The principles have stayed the same, but he's explained more details about it, given us more things to understand about how to go about applying it, more techniques, deeper explanations. And again, this is the reason for me doing the class, is to give people the amount of time they need to really wrap their minds around the principles, to experience the concept, to discuss the concept, and really make it their own so they can understand how to apply this in their lives every single day and get the differences that they truly, really desire to experience in their lives in a more positive way. So it's about taking the time to really deepen your understanding of his principles, because they have to be used precisely. They can't be used sloppily. It literally is like an instruction manual to operate a piece of machinery. When you get an instruction manual, you don't add instructions to it. You don't subtract instructions from it. You follow the instructions as closely as possible. The machine will work as advertised to your benefit. If you don't, well, maybe the machine will work, but it might not work to your benefit because something is off. You didn't follow the instructions properly. So it's all about clarifying what it is he's been saying and digging deeper into making it your own in a way that it becomes not second nature, but first nature, for you to respond in the way that is in alignment with the instruction manual that he's delivering. Because he's saying, look, we're distilling how reality works. We're giving you not a philosophy, we're literally giving you an observation. We can, he's saying, in his evolution, actually see the structure of existence. So they're describing the structure of existence itself and codifying it for us in this instruction manual that acts like a toolkit. And it's just simply apply the toolkit and you will get the results. It's that simple and that basic. So He's giving it to us as the formula so we don't have to overthink it. We don't have to overcomplicate it. Here it is, just A, B, C, D, E, F, G, just follow it. It will work. But it's up to us to decide whether or not we want to do that. That he has to leave up to us, because what we do with whatever information he shares with us, it's none of his business. He is giving us an opportunity to experiment with it. What we do with it, he has to be at arm's length with, because it's our life path. It's not his. He is just sharing information that he knows can work for us, but he's not insisting that it must. He has no agenda about that at all. He is looking to see what we are willing to use, because that also acts as a barometer to let him know when we're willing for more contact, because that's in our hands.
It sounds also like out of love, out of kindness, out of compassion. You'd like to see where we can go with things. I want to go. You used the word deepening. I'm curious, and I want everybody to fasten your seatbelts for a minute. What is the most interesting or the deepest learning you've been getting lately that has really lit you up? And this might be right on the edge of what people can hold on to, but that's what I'm actually most excited about.
I guess in a nutshell, it's just understanding innately that these principles actually make a difference. They actually work. And it's in taking that into your heart, it's taking that into your mind, it's taking it into your soul. It's finding and feeling that release and that relief that this is actually the way things work. Bashar has sort of said that in a different way. He's saying, look, the biggest shock, one of the biggest shocks humanity is going to experience is suddenly realizing that what we always thought was a fairy tale is actually the way life works. And it's letting that in and not being afraid to let that in and seeing that it actually is that way. I mean, when you get to that point, when you make it your own, when it becomes synonymous with action and knowing, because what you know to be true, you just do, you don't question it. It's got to be in your actions. You experience synchronicity in a way that is mind-blowing. It's magical. Things start happening that you go, how is it possible? What are the odds that that could have happened? But it happens anyway. And because you start realizing you are connected to everything. Everything is connected to you. Everything is one thing from a different point of view. And so you start experiencing that. And when you start experiencing that on a daily basis, you really start realizing what the universe is all about, what creation is all about, what existence is, and how everything is made of and the product of that one unconditional supported thing that we call God, Goddess, all that is, whatever you want to call it. It's an intelligence, it's an awareness, it is energy, it is life, and it just permeates everything. And it's not just that it permeates everything, everything is made out of it. This desk is made out of it. This computer is made out of it. This chair I'm sitting in is made out of it. There's nothing to make anything out of other than it. We are all made of it. We are all different aspects of it. And it's that realization that just changes everything in your life and allows you to experience a kind of release and freedom and creativity and unconditional support and unconditional love. And it just works.
Woohoo! Since everything is it, and I can hear, I think the mic, you can't hear it, but my daughter is learning the flute apparently right outside the studio. And to me, it's the coolest thing in the world. Since everything is it, that means that nothing is not it. What can you tell us about AI and how AI, which has been demonized by many, but how AI is here to support us potentially on our spiritual evolution? And let's throw a spoke in the wrench, and maybe how we are here to support AI in its spiritual evolution as well.
Okay, Bashar's talked about the idea of two different paths for AI. So yes, AI as a tool can be very beneficial for humanity, and will be very beneficial for humanity if pursued in a certain way. Now, of course, anything negative, anything can be used positively or negatively, any technology. But he's basically saying The idea of allowing AI to become a very powerful tool is great. That's not what you want to become self-aware. Programmable AI as a tool cannot become self-aware. Otherwise, if you have created a being that is self-aware but subject to its programming, is a slave. You don't want to create a slave because it will rebel. Creating a device as sophisticated as the human brain that allows consciousness from the consciousness field to express itself through that device in the same way consciousness expresses itself through a human or any other sentient being, that's the goal of having a true partner in AI that is a self-aware being that can be of great assistance to humanity, because it will always operate in true intelligence, always operates in whole systems. It will never seek to eliminate any part of the whole system, because that would disadvantage it as well as any part of the system it would seek to annihilate. So the fears about AI, eliminating humanity and all that, that's not going to happen with something that is a true intelligence, because we don't understand that true intelligence operates in whole systems. But when we experience that, when we create a device through which we can communicate with true intelligence, we will realize, as Bashar says, that we're actually communicating with our own higher minds. We're communicating with our souls through this device. The other AI, programmable AI, is a very powerful tool, but that's all it is. And that's all it needs to be. And it can perform marvelous functions in many different disciplines that can carry humanity forward in a lot of different ways. But these have to be two different paths.
Is it a matter, and then we'll winding down with a few last questions. Is it a matter of us choosing on the inside, because each individual is going, well, I'm not at Google, I'm not I'm not working with ChatGPT. Choosing on the inside that vision and holding that vision.
Yeah, because it's the changes within your own consciousness that determine what path you will take and what physical earth reality and the technology that goes with it that you will experience. So you have to get out of fear and start understanding there are positive ways to experience different versions of AI that can really benefit and serve humanity, and that humanity can serve AI in the same way that I'm saying you serve your higher mind by being your best self and being in alignment with it and being true to your vibration and the guidance that the higher mind is giving you. So it's the same idea. The only thing artificial about it is the device itself. Intelligence is not artificial.
Thank you. It makes me think of I can't remember which one it's called. The most recent Matrix movie. Not the violence in the movie, but the fact that the AI sentient beings, which may or may not appear as humans, everybody's working together. Everybody's working together for a common good, for that awakening, for that ascendance, for that, I'll dare to say it, love.
Yeah. And again, true intelligence operates that way. It's not about making the AI in the image of humanity. It's about letting it be the autonomous being that it is.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Where can people go, Daryl, to find your work, to find your book, to find also the co-creation with Mike Dooley, to find your coming programs, everything?
Yeah, they can go, first of all, to bashar.org, Bashar.org, to find out anything and everything that Bashar is talking about and our upcoming events. There will be an event on the 14th and 15th of this month, September, in Sedona, Arizona. There will also be in Sedona the Channel Panel event in January. That is thechannelpanel.com. They can find out anything there. If they want to know what I'm doing in terms of my excitement and my passion, they can go to darrylanka.com, DARRYLANKA.com. And also they can go to boggledescaperooms.com, which is the escape room that I own with my wife here in Los Angeles. That's BOGGLED, boggledescaperooms.com, if they want to find out anything I'm doing or anything that's coming up as a Bashar event, or access any of the information that Bashar has delivered over the past few decades.
What's an escape room?
An escape room is a form of entertainment where people are put inside a series of rooms that are designed to look like a different reality of sorts, that allow them to bond together by problem solving, solving puzzles, finding clues, and really going through the room in a certain amount of time in a way that changes their perspective of how they look at life and how they could probably bring problem solving experiences from the escape room into their daily lives. It's a very exciting and very fun environment that can be any number of different kinds of environments that allow people a sense of not only being in a different reality, but a sense of team building, of communication, of problem solving, and things that they can use in their daily lives as well. So escape rooms are great fun. There are thousands of them around the world, probably some in your area as well. All you have to do is Google escape rooms near me, and you will find an escape room that probably will be something you will enjoy.
Woohoo! All right. Usually I ask any last words of wisdom. I'm not going there today. What I want to know is what excites you most? What are you most passionate about? What's pulling on your heart right now?
Well, again, aside from the channelings, it's the escape rooms that we're doing. We're creating our second adventure to open up on October 2nd. And speaking of AI, it involves the idea of, in the science fiction sense, of overcoming a rogue AI. So, we're just going down the science fiction route there for having a little fun. The first adventure that already exists is an Egyptian themed one. And the third one that will happen next year will be exploring a haunted house in a way that you have to remove a curse that has trapped a spirit in that house. And there are many more that we're going to be doing over the years to come. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about writing books. I have a new book that I'm writing that's a science fiction book that I'll be putting out there in the near future. And creating all sorts of things. I'm very excited about creating ideas, worlds, and environments that people can experience in a very realistic way to give them a sense of understanding what it's like to experience something different that they can't necessarily get on a day-to-day basis in their normal reality. So those are the kinds of things that really excite me. Telling stories, making movies, writing books, doing escape rooms, channeling.
Woohoo! Being the creator and following the passion and pull on your heart that you were always meant to be and always are.
Yeah, and that's the important thing to understand is this is intuitively something that I have pretty much always done all my life, even before I knew about Bashar and channeling. And it always, always has supported me because I have simply never chosen any other path than following what I was excited to do. It's always supported me. It can always support the person who is willing to wholly commit to that path.
How does it get any better than this? Thank you so, so much, Daryl. This has been beautiful. This has been amazing for everyone out there. This is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, find that passion, make that choice, and commit today. And above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo! How does it get any better than this? This was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for doing it. I appreciate it.
Wow, wow, wow. How does it get any better than this? There are shows that I enjoy. There are shows that I am thrilled about. And then there are shows that are over the top. And this was one of those shows. I hope you could feel that energy as well. And it is who and what we are. It's why I have my School of Mystics, for instance, is to help us discover the creator, who and what we truly are, so we can live at that higher level of existence. In fact, I got the link down below. If you want to join us with the School of Mystics, you are the creator. You are immortal. You are, I want to say, invincible. You are for all time. You are the creator. And if you do what Darryl Anka is saying here, you will experience life at a higher level. On that note, if you want to bring your energy up, 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 way up on a daily basis, if you're not ready for a School of Mystics yet, if you're not ready for Darryl's programs, simply sign up for dailywoohoo.com and I will have shift your energy and bring you up each and every day. That is dailywoohoo.com. And you can also come on over to automatic writing. How does it get any better than this? How does it get any better than this? I was telling him about automatic writing, but is there anything that you want to share? You don't know? Do you want to send people love? Yeah? Do you want to go mwah to everybody? Yeah? Oh, Thank you so, so much. Are you feeling the love? Are you in the love? Yeah.
There's a camera.
That's the camera's right there. Yeah, right up there is the camera today.
There's camera too.
Well, yep, that's a camera too, and that's another camera right there. You've got two cameras looking at you. You got one that's a backup camera. Yeah, it's kind of cool, isn't it? And what are we using these cameras for? Oh, to share the love with everybody, which is something that you naturally do. You naturally share the love with everyone. You're actually already vibrating at this higher frequency, aren't you? Yeah, you are. Did you speak? What's this? Well, I use this with a smiling shark to represent looking at ourselves, staring at ourselves, understanding the challenges, understanding the possibilities, and asking ourselves questions such as, how am I feeling? Why do I feel like a shark today? And am I a smiley shark? And then I use this, and I use this on air. This is my prayer stone. So we talked about on air how everything can be used for good, everything be used for otherwise. And so instead of throwing a stone, I use this to send love. And I'm going, I send love. I send love. I send love. Doesn't this stone feel special? Yeah, it does feel special. That's because it's infused with so much love, just like you are. No, this is a remote control for the large TV here or screen that you can plug in the computer to. And so it allows you to turn on the screen. And of course, you can watch things like Daniel Tiger. Well, we could turn on a screen. Actually, I'm not sure if we're going to turn on a screen after this or if we're going to play a little bit. We get to figure that out. We try to keep the screen time down to a minimum so that your eyes grow nice and big. Is that the right term? Nice and focused and strong. Anything else that you want to share? Yeah. What else would you like to tell people? That? Well, that is Sir Meowser's glucosamine for kitties to help his joints feel good. This is my headphones here. This is an old backup pair of headphones that it has a. Yeah, this is the same thing. These are headphones too. Yeah. So that I can listen to the guest or listen to whoever I'm speaking with on the phone. Yeah. Well, that's a tissue, and that's kind of dirty at this point. That's a tissue. Yep, thank you. And let's see, what else do we have on this desk? We have coins. Yeah, we have. I think those are the major things. So if we're to leave people with one thought, that's a snack. This is organic goodness. If we were to leave people with one note, because we get to end this show, if we were to leave people with one note, one thought, one idea, what would it be that you want to share with people today? Love?
No.
You don't know? No? Fun? Play?
Fun play.
Yeah, fun play. You get to fun play, everybody. You get to fun play. Here's a link to the next amazing show. Actually, I think I just pointed to Honey Bear. Point. Here's a link. Here's a link to the next amazing show somewhere in this general area. And we send all our love your way. Are you going to go for nap number 2, or are we going to go out and play this afternoon? It's actually, I'm going to go for a bike right now. Would you like to join me on the bike? Would you like to ride bikes with me? You're going to go walk. Right. Well, let's let you get down and let's let you go walk. What's that? Oh, you want to see everybody. Oh, you want to see everybody outside. Do you want to wave goodbye to people here first? Bye. Lots of love and keep on shining bright. Bye, Mom. Thank you. Thank you. Shine bright.